Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to not just graph example 2 on our grid, but also graph the information on the regular graph paper. And it's super important because I know, like, you're moving on, right? You're going to use your math skills, your graphing skills beyond our class. So it's good to have that skill. So what we're going to do is we are going to think about how we are going to graph this. And I think last week we said in our discussion, this is kind of deceiving, right? It's actually not deceiving, but it kind of tells you exactly how you're going to organize your graph. You know it's going to be quadrant 1. But what if you don't have that, right? What if you don't have this? Like, how do you set up your graph? So you look at this one in here. I think last time somebody said, when I asked you how we're going to set this up, and we said, are we going to use all quadrants? And then somebody said, no, we're just going to use quadrant 1, and because these are all positive. X is positive, Y is positive, right? That's in quadrant 1. So that is absolutely right. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our graph paper, and we have to look at our axes. So we're going to create our axes, X and Y axes. I hope you... We're only considering our first quadrant. So let's create our quadrant 1. Okay, quadrant 1. And in quadrant 1, how are we going to organize this? What scale do we need to graph everything? What scale do you need on the x-axis?
On the x-axis.
Okay. What's
150.
yeah? So how do we get our scaling? Because we have to fit up to 150 on the x-axis, but how do you fit 150? Okay, so we can't go by ones. Our scaling of 1 wouldn't work. You're gonna not have enough room for 150 tick marks. So you said that you could go by tens, okay? Okay, don't do it yet. Don't do it yet. So if I go by 10, this is what would happen. And then just watch for a second. If the scale is 10, it's gonna be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay. Is that good? Yeah? Could we go a scale of 5? Would it work? Could we go by 5?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So just 50. 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100. We're already here. 100. 100, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Oh, we just missed it by like two things. So, yeah, we won't be able to fit a scale of 5 in this situation. Okay? Okay, so we could use a scale of 10. Any ideas of, can I go like that? But here's the other possibility. I could go, what if I go this way? Do you think I'll be able to make a scale of 5?
This way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because we have more room this way. And if we look at the y-axis here, okay, we can go by 5s here as well. Is that okay? Yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our graph, I shouldn't have done that, horizontal, the long side down. So don't just jump right in and then try to, oh yeah, I'm gonna graph it. There's some planning to do, some planning to think about. If you, I should have flipped it. Okay, never mind, it's done. Okay, so we're gonna do horizontal. Okay, so horizontal, and then our vertical axis here. I'll get you started and then you could just finish it off. Okay, so we said that we're gonna go by scale of 5 to fit it onto this graph. Now, this graph paper, when you're creating a graph, you want to make sure for greater accuracy is for us to use your graph paper, you know, almost the whole thing as much as possible. Don't make the graph too tiny. Don't make the graph too tiny because it's harder to graph and it's harder to read. Okay, so we said we do a scale of 5. Is what we're gonna do.
What we're gonna do for this one, the last one. As it is?
Yeah.
We're gonna
We're gonna graph it on a graph paper, not just the graphing calculator. Yeah. So we said we're gonna go by 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So you could put 25 there. So our increments is 5. Yeah, because it's not gonna fit vertically. So 5, so 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, so that's at 50. Okay, so we've created the horizontal. When we're creating a graph, we have to also write down what quantity are we talking about here. So they're talking about on the x-axis the speed. So we're gonna put speed. And the speed is measured in kilometers per hour. Okay. So we've planned our scale. We've planned, and then we're gonna put the unit and what the x-axis is all about. Okay. So we did say scale of 5. Okay. Now let's We could also do a scale of 5 in here for the y values, scale of 5. So let's do that. So we've created our scale. We're also going to label the y-axis, and the y-axis talks about distance, stopping distance. Stopping distance. Oh, in meters, not kilometers. So far, so good. Okay, so now that our graph is set up, we've labeled our axes, we can start plotting the values, okay? So the first one says 50 and then 14. So 50 and 14. So where would that be? So traveling at 50 kilometers per hour. 50 kilometers per hour, 14. So starting at 0, 0, you're going to go to 50 on the x and then 14 up. So 14, where's 14 up? 5, 10, so 14 would be right there. So put like a tiny dot, not super big, a tiny dot. So that's 50 on the x and then up 14. Is that okay? Yeah.
Like, do you have your paper like this way or this way? Because like I have my speed right now, but like I don't know. I think I'm just confusing myself. Like, is your this is right here, right? Should I have it like this?
I had it like this because when we counted it, it didn't fit this way. Okay? Yeah. Just continue on. Just continue on. Yeah, just pick up where that is. Leave it. Okay, the next one is 80, 36. 80, 36. So you're starting at 0, 0. So where's 80? 80 is here. Okay. 80. So starting at 0, 0. 80 is there. And 36. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 36 would be. So horizontal's 80 and then 36. Okay.
Wouldn't it be one more?
Did I miss something? Oh, yes. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Yes, 36 is over. Thanks, Hannah. Yeah. Okay, so now we plotted 2 points there. So keep up with that. Do the rest of the questions. Do the rest of the points. Oh, where are you at? I know. Oh.
It's okay.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. I'm gonna go.
This is
What's the
80,
next one? Yeah, next
80,
first.
80,
80.
and 56.
Oh, no, no, no. 80, 36. Okay. So 80,
Yeah.
36, 39. Yeah, that's right. What is this point?
That's wrong.
Oh, that's wrong.
I was wrong. Before you were, this was X. So
Oh,
I'm
you were just
thinking
going
C,
ahead.
that's
Yeah, yeah,
why.
yeah. Okay, well.
This, yeah.
Okay, we can erase that one in a second. Okay, then you don't have to do this part. Okay. So your graph is we just have the points. Okay.
It's only, yeah.
Yeah, that's all you need. Now keep going.
Yeah,
And then I'm gonna grab you the
Okay. I think I do have this. AC. I do have.
Oh, 60, 20? Horizontal, vertical, horizontal, vertical.
Evimin de ne zaten varmış. Selamünaleyküm.
Very.
I had to restart because I forgot to put
Okay, I'm seeing great stuff. Very neat graph on your work there. Okay, so now what do we have so far to create a really good graph? You have the scale is consistent, right? The scale is consistent. You have label and units on your both of your axes. There's one thing that we are gonna actually put in. Another thing that we're gonna put in is the title of the graph. The next one is the title of the graph. So in this particular case, the title of the graph, we're gonna make it very simple. The graph is relating the relationship between stopping distance and the speed. So we're just gonna call it stopping distance versus speed. So stopping distance versus speed graph. Well, just like a book, right? And this graph is showing you information. Yeah, you're reading the graph. So before you even read the graph and analyze the graph, you should be able to see what this graph is about, right? Like, okay.
Good question.
Yes.
Do you have to put the graph on your pen?
You don't have to. Yeah, you can just put. Yeah, like here. Yeah.
The whole picture kind of self-explanatory. I said the whole like picture is kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah, exactly. Now this is not the graph. This is just telling you what information are related to each other.
The graph starts.
Yeah. So you know the graph is going like that. So if you actually compare your graph, can I borrow someone else's like finished product, because I didn't quite finish mine? Can I?
Oh, on the calculator?
No. Paper. Okay. Now I'm just gonna zoom it out a bit. The graph, the points, okay, on our graph paper should be the same shape as the graph on the graphing calculator, right? It's just that you represent your graph on a paper, and then this one here represented or shown on a grid here. So, thank you for that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, now that you know how to do this, let's take a look at describe the trend. Describe the trend. What's the relationship between speed and stopping distance? What's the relationship between the speed and the stopping distance? So we can say that as okay, as the speed increases, the stopping distance also increases. As the speed increases, the faster the car is traveling, the stopping distance is also longer. Increases, yeah.
Where did it go to paper?
Oh, yes. Tell us.
Speed no longer stopping distance.
Yeah.
This is like short term.
Sure. Say that again. Or you can say, tell me.
The higher the speed, the longer the stopping distance.
Okay, so this is the other person. The higher the speed, higher the speed, the longer the stopping distance. Absolutely. So you can write it like that, or you can write it like that. Now let's take a look at the next one. Let's see what that trend is. Okay, enter the data on the scatter plot. So let's enter the data on the scatter plot first, and then we'll graph it on a graph paper. Huh? Oh, sorry. Okay, there you go. You're missing 27? Who has number 27? Calculator 27. Did you pick up Delvina's graphing calculator 27? Did I do it? Can you just take a look at the back if it's 27? 27. Nobody picked up number 27? No? I'm sure the 27 is here because when I checked it, is okay, I'll figure it out. Okay, so let's enter these values here. Go back. Let's review what we did before. How do you enter that in a graphing calculator? Yeah, so we're gonna go to Stat, Edit, Stat, Edit. Okay, you want to clear off your list. Clear off your list. Clear. And clear. Okay, now enter those values, please. Now I'm gonna ask you this. Our values have changed. Our x values have changed. Which quadrants should we focus on?
Quadrants or just one?
Which quadrant or quadrants do we focus on?
Quadrant one.
Yeah, quadrant 1.
Negative.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna focus on quadrant 1. Now, how are we gonna set up our window? How are we gonna set up our window? Yeah, so X min, X max. Okay, we're gonna put in the X scale here. Y min, Y max, Y scale. So you look at this part in here, which one is what would be the appropriate X minimum?
0.
0. Okay, is everybody okay? So minimum is 0. What is the appropriate X maximum? 10. Yeah. So we can see there's 8 here, but if you want a little bit of space, we could put 10. Yeah, you could put 8, but if you want like a little bit of space on top, you could. You could put 10, you could put 8. Okay. What is the appropriate scale?
1.
1. Okay. Is everybody clear on this part? Okay. Now, what about the Y minimum?
65.
Okay. So we could put a 0 if we want. Okay. So if we want to see the whole quadrant 1, we can put Y minimum is 0. What about the Y max? 100. What's your Y scale?
Maybe 5.
Okay, we can put 5, yeah? Any other possibility? Could be 10, right? 10 or, okay, so let's go scale. So change your window so that you can see the whole thing. And then when you press graph, nope. Now we chose Y min as 0 so that we could actually clearly see where the x-axis is. We can choose Y max or Y min to be 60, and this is what it would look like. Oh, sorry. No, it would be 60, and then this is 100. As you can see here, the only thing that we have in here are tick marks. That means the amount that we are going up by, but we actually don't see the axis itself. Okay. So what we need to do is you can start with the 0 so that you can actually see the x and y axis. Yeah. Okay. So what do you think is the trend here? What is the trend? Describing the trend for this. Describe the trend. As what's happening? As x increases, as the number of absences increases, the mark decreases. Okay, so the trend is as number of absences increases, the mark decreases. The mark decreases. And then the next question is, what type of correlation is this? So what are the correlation in this particular case? Okay, what kind of correlation? It's a downward trend. Okay, it's a downward trend, so it's a negative correlation. So this one here has a negative correlation. So it's a downward trend and it's a negative correlation. Yeah?
Can you go back to the?
Negative correlation. Okay. Let's go take a look at the next one. Take a look at the next one. Enter the data and then draw the sketch. Enter the data and draw the sketch. Okay, let's enter these data first. So go stat clear.
Yeah, can you make another graph?
Did Ernestine bring back her calculator? Yeah?
Yeah, another graph for this one?
Maybe next I can get you to kind of look at this one because maybe people are forgetting. Okay, let's do the entering the data. Okay, so enter the data first on L1 and L2. Okay. Given that information, let's figure out what's our X information. X information. What do you think we should do, or we should put on the X min, X max, and X scale? What do you think we should put for X min, X max, and X scale? We can put 0, X, okay. What should we put for X max? Okay. We can put 12, but if you want a little bit of space along, right, you can put 15, and it's okay to have a little bit more. What do you think is the X scale?
1.
Yeah, we could go 1, okay? So you're gonna see 0 to 15 with X scale is every tick mark is 1. What about the Y? What do you think the Y values are? Y min? 0. Okay. What about the Y max? You can go 10 as well, or 10. And what's a Y scale? You can go 1. Okay. And press graph. So you enter your values, you change the window, and now we're pressing graph. Press graph.
Wait, you put on the Y stuff?
Okay. Now let's take a look at the trend for this one. Is there a trend? Is there a relationship between those two? Any correlation? So trends, no trends, because they're all over the place. All over the place in here. There's no trend. It's not going down and it's not going up. No trend. It's very scattered. Any relationship? No relationship between the X and the Y. And what correlation? zero correlation. Okay. So if you take a look at this one, it's pretty much, tomorrow what we're gonna do is we'll look at this one in here, okay? Or look at that one. We're gonna do that all on our grid. We're gonna do that on our grid, and then we can do assignment number 3 for tomorrow. And I know some people are working on it, and that's okay. So, okay. So tomorrow, we'll finish this off, and then you have the describing of trends on a graph paper. On a graph paper. Okay?